Lieutenant Corell seems to be enjoying your company.
I'd like to think so.
Are you involved with her?
Why, are you interested in her?
No. But if I were, I would, of course, discuss the situation with you before proceeding further.
I appreciate it, but that really wouldn't have been necessary.
I mean, I would never want to come between you and someone you are involved with, or had ever been involved with.
Is there someone in particular that you're talking about?
No. Is there someone in particular you would rather I not be involved with?
Mr. Worf, you sound like a man who's asking his friend if he can start dating his sister.
No, I was merely... No, never mind. Excuse me, sir.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fully Functional TNG Podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a newly minted Trekkie. We are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today we're talking about the Season 7 episode, Eye of the Beholder. Original air date is February 26th, 1994. And I think before we start, just huge trigger warning for suicide. This entire episode is going to revolve around that. So apologies. If you don't want to hear about that, should maybe just skip to the next episode.
Thanks,
All
Brown
right.
and Braga.
Yeah. All right. As always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so we start off, it seems like we're in the midst of a red alert, and we're losing containment in the starboard nacelle tube. Geordi can't shut down the plasma injectors. Someone's locked out the controls. The plasma venting system has engaged. So Riker and Worf, they're climbing between the decks to get up to the nacelle tube, and when they get there, there's already 2 crew members in there. And it's sort of set up like they're in the midst of a fucking insane emergency. Mm-hmm. So we look up and we see a guy up on this walkway. We do learn his name is Dan. And then the woman that's sort of at the level where Riker and Worf are, her name is Lieutenant Nara. And she's like, I didn't want to go up there because she's scared that he will jump into this force field that's at the walkway. So Riker goes up to the walkway, climbs up there, and he's trying to talk Dan down. Mm-hmm. And Dan says, I didn't want to do it, but I saw them and they laughed at me. And I just wrote, Jesus fucking Christ. And then Riker was trying to talk him down and be like, hey, let's just talk about this. And then Dan jumps into the force field and is immediately evaporated instantly. It's fucking brutal and horrible.
Yeah, it's surprisingly graphic.
Yes. Yeah. I did not expect that at all, even though like we've had some really horrible shit happen, but this was like surprisingly just
it's not like you see gore or anything like that. Like he truly just like disappears. Yeah. And it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
It's because the scene, I think, is treated really, like, it's treated with the seriousness that it deserves.
Yes, yeah. And then in my notes, I immediately wrote, well, this whole episode is a content warning.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we cut to Riker, Picard, Worf, and Troi in Picard's ready room. And Riker thinks that, like, if he had a few more seconds, he could have saved him, but... Like, let's be honest, like, there...
Yeah.
With the information that we knew at this time, I mean, to be fair, at any point in time, there was literally nothing that Riker could have done to prevent this from happening.
I mean, okay, he probably could have grabbed him. I realize why he didn't, but he probably could have.
He could have, but, like...
I have another big one.
It's a huge risk to do that, because you could just, like...
If he jumped taking Riker with her.
You're right.
Like,
you're right.
Yeah, taking Riker with him.
Now, here's what I want to know. Why did the force field not stop the force from going through it?
Yeah. That's very true.
Did they forget what this technology does?
Apparently.
Yeah, the force field is supposed to repel you.
Yes.
Well, So, okay, Riker then says that he spoke with Dan a few days ago and complimented him on how fast he did this task, which, like, Dan appreciated. And then Troi said that she met with him 6 weeks ago during crew evaluations and was looking forward to being posted in the nacelle tube. I do have to mention, I don't know that they've ever mentioned crew evaluations as much in the entire series as they have this season. I feel like every
Yeah.
other episode they're like, hey, crew evaluations. Hey, remember crew evaluations? Oh, hey, we got crew evaluations coming up. Like, Jesus Christ. You guys do them once every 7 fucking years? Holy shit.
They put them all, they clump them
Well,
all
no,
together.
Gene Roddenberry died, so they're like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe we should take this universe more seriously because how the fuck did some of these people stay on the ship?
Truly. How is Reg still there? No, I'm kidding. No, just kidding, Reg. So Picard then is like, yeah, he's had to tell a lot of parents that their child has died, but this is the first suicide. So he's like, we really got to figure out what happened so I can give a full story to his parents because this is truly fucking horrific. And he assigns Worf and Troi to investigate. And honestly, up until this point, I was so on board with like, oh my gosh, okay, it's going to be interesting. We're going to be like the mystery of it all, the backing, like the going backwards. I was interested. They got me.
It's a good concept.
So, oh, absolutely. So, there's a whole other thing about like a medical situation on another planet, but honestly, it's not fucking relevant to anything. So like, I'm not really gonna even talk about it. So okay, then in engineering, Data asks Geordi if he agrees that the instinct for self-preservation is shared by most life forms. And Geordi's like, I'd say it's probably the most basic instinct, Data. And so the Data, though, has a hard time sort of understanding then why someone would deliberately terminate their own existence. Truly a wild way to describe this, so...
Yeah.
I genuinely don't
not
like
wrong.
that
their
scene.
own existence. Yeah, it's truly wild. So Geordi suggests that maybe Dan has something in his life that he was powerless to fix, and Data's like, yeah, I get that. Okay, I wrote this is the data. This is the data exchange. So Data says the first months following my activation were a difficult period for me. There were many problems associated with my becoming sentient. And then Geordi says, because your neural net was still forming. And then Data said, as I acquired new skills, neural pathways would form, replacing other less complex pathways. It was very disorienting. And then Geordi goes, I bet. And then Data said, as my systems grew in complexity, it became increasingly difficult to integrate new pathways into my existing neural net. The probability of cascade failure, I don't know if that's the right word, that's what I'm reading on my note, grew with each individual pathway. I came to the conclusion it would be safer and easier to shut myself down and start again. And then Geordi's like, yeah, but if you had done that, you wouldn't have remembered any of the things that had happened to you. And then Data said, in a way, it would have been like committing suicide. No, it's not, Data.
No.
Not at all. And so then Geordi said, what did you do? And so Data said, I decided against the procedure. I chose instead to treat the problems I was having with my systems as challenges to overcome rather than obstacles to be avoided. And then Geordi said, that's a great way to look at it, Data. I only wish Lieutenant Kwan had been able to look at his problems the same way. I have a lot of problems with this. A lot, but I'll save it for after, because we'll talk about this later.
I would
Okay.
like this scene more if they didn't start it off playing for comedy.
Yeah.
When Data's doing like the arm crossing thing, I'm just like, why?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, Worf and Troi enter Dan's quarters. Sorry, I should mention that Lieutenant Kwan, that Geordi, that is Dan. That's Kwan is his last name. Just for the listeners. They discussed that his room looks like pretty normal, and Troi was like kind of expecting a mess. And I just wrote, where entering after school special territory now. And Worf says, "It is strange to think that someone could have considered ending his life and yet give no outward sign. Just before he jumped, he seemed almost calm." I have thoughts again for later. Okay, so Troi and Worf watched Dan's last personal log from that very morning, and he mentioned that he worked double shifts and was really looking forward to seeing his girlfriend named Ensign Maddie Calloway, who's a medical technician in sickbay. So Troi and Worf conclude that like this doesn't seem like someone who's about to take their life. It's like he was making plans. So we got to Troi talking to Maddie, and Maddie was taking this like remarkably well, to the point I put in my notes. I'm like, if this was a episode of CSI, she would have like been the person. She would have hired someone to kill the boyfriend, or like she would have been the like.
Yeah.
It had the vibe of like, you know, when those cases where like the partner is like constantly texting their partner to kill themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this vibe was, is that she didn't kill him, but she kept telling him to kill himself or something.
Yeah.
Because the way she was so like, everyone reacts as like, if it reacts with grief differently, and that's totally fine. Just the complete, like, she just found out her boyfriend just died, and she is like taking it like unbelievably well. Like, she is very calm, very chill about this, that I was like, something is wrong here.
It's like it's not serious.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it felt like, oh, he just got transferred and didn't tell her. Like, that's what the kind of the vibe was. And I was like, I was like, is this a murder? Did she kill? Like, I don't understand what's going on.
So with her case, this is why she in particular quite bothers me. This is one of two people's fault, and neither of them are the writer, which is weird because normally I will blame Brendan Braga for lots of stuff. But no, this is either the director or the actress. They are the ones who fucked this up.
Because it was so
100% of the problem
choice.
is her performance here.
Yeah. I don't typically like to critique like actors' performances on this show, but this was a truly wild choice.
I mean, okay, I've been watching fucking Babylon 5 a bunch recently, and there are so many like TV actors on that who come off like, oh geez, that is really hokey acting. And I cannot tell you how many of them I've come across in the last few weeks that I've been watching it that have displayed characteristics like this woman. But this is what I mean. Like, it's coming off as her putting off a bad performance more than anything else. That could be the director's fault. I don't know. So that's why I'm not blaming her squarely.
Because the thing is, I don't think it's necessarily a bad performance. I just think that the tone is so fucking strange.
Well, then it's a bad choice of performance.
Yes, that's the thing. It's a really weird choice went into this, because I don't think this woman is necessarily a bad actress. I think, though, the choices made for her reaction is kind of wild, because then Troi says to her, "I thought you might like to know that in his personal logs, Dan talked about you a great deal. He loved you very much." And then she goes totally like straight-faced, nonplussed. She's like, "If that's true, then how could he leave me like this?" And I was like,
you know which line actually gets me more than that from her? It's when she says, when she tells them to find out why it is he did this, because it's not like him to kill himself. And I'm just like,
I noted that too.
Do you know how to use that phrase? I don't know.
I also noted
he's
that.
never killed himself before. It's not like him.
I also noted that. Yeah, because Troy's like, I know this is like hard to talk about, but I was like, oh no, Maddie is having no trouble talking about this. She seems like she's great. Keep talking to her. And so Maddie does tell Troi that Dan felt that his superior, Lieutenant Nara, who we met at the beginning, was threatened by him, that she thought maybe Dan was after her position. And Dan was also very sensitive to other people's moods, and his mom was some form of empath, so he may have inherited that quality. And she mentions that, oh, they knew each other for 2 years, but only started their relationship a few months ago. And then I wrote, Troi not better have any ideas here. How unfortunately right I was.
Oh,
I'm so
no,
mad.
No. Let's not spoil that yet. Let's move
Nope.
on.
No. Yeah. So Maddie though confirm. Oh yeah. I wrote Maddie confirms that Dan taking his life was very out of character. Yeah. I. Yeah. What a weird thing to say. I don't know. Like I think I get what they kind of mean, but the way that it was sort of, put out there, this line was like, yeah, I should hope. What does that mean? Like,
It's a
I don't
bad
know.
line choice.
It was such a bizarre, very bizarre. So then Troi goes to the nacelle tubes and meets Lieutenant Nara, and Nara cannot think of like anything different that's happened with his behavior. He was fine. He was like ambitious, had lots of ideas, some good, some bad. But like, wasn't like nothing was that weird going on, nothing unusual. So Troi looks at Dan's station and then heads back up to the walkway where Dan jumped. And Troi gets the worst fucking vibes up there. And it was really weird to see her like that. Like she is like really scared and like climbs down. And she then is in sickbay with Riker and Worf, and she just said that she felt suddenly overwhelmed by a flood of emotions: fear, rage, panic. Oh, sensations? Yes. Oh, sensations, but they're not coming from a person. So I was like, okay, interesting. But she wants to go back to the nacelle tube and get a better reading of the vibes, if you will. But when Worf volunteers to go with her next time as support. So he goes to see Troi in her quarters later. They haven't really found anything helpful in Dan's personal logs. Troi says that he seemed well adjusted and optimistic. So she thinks it could be possible that the bad vibes on the walkway could be an empath echo, as Dan was an empath, and this might have been something from his experience, but she's only really experienced this kind of like empath vibes, not necessarily from like a person, but from a space. Was when when she was younger, her grandfather used to tell her stories, purely like telepathically and by a fireplace. So now she can only remember these stories if she's like at a fireplace. I don't know if it has to be this one particular fireplace or any fireplace. She's like, oh yeah, these stories from my grandpa. She can like hear his voice inside her head. But so then Worf says, there are things we do not understand, yet they exist nonetheless, which is like, put that on a fucking bumper sticker. Holy shit. And Worf is like, I guess I should let you rest. But Troy's like, oh, no, it's okay. And then he like abruptly leaves. And I wrote, what the fuck is going on? Why is he being so weird? And then Worf immediately goes to 10 forward. And I just wrote, where's Ben? I miss Ben. From Lower Decks episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I miss him. He was great. And we see Riker in there, and he's not wearing a blue shirt. He's surprisingly wearing a green shirt. He's really branching out there. So he comes up to the bar, and he's been like chatting with Lieutenant Corell, and he's like not sure if Riker's not sure if he's like gonna get involved with her or whatever. And then he's like, why? Like, Worf, are you into her? And then Worf goes, no, but if I were, I would, of course, discuss the situation with you before proceeding further. And then Riker says, I appreciate it, but that really wouldn't have been necessary. And then Worf says, I mean, I would never want to come between you and someone you were involved with or had ever been involved with. And then Riker's like, is there someone in particular that you're talking about? And then Worf goes, no. Is there someone in particular you would rather I not be involved with? And then Riker goes, Mr. Worf, you sound like a man who's asking his friend if he can start dating his sister. And then Worf goes, no, I was merely, never mind. Excuse me, sir. And obviously I caught on to what they're talking about, what Worf's talking about, because obviously Riker does not catch on, because why would he? How would he? Worf has given us nothing. But I don't want this. And I don't want this. And I'm not happy. I am not on board.
Yep.
I like the Troi and Worf friend dynamic. I have literally been saying this for years. I love their friend dynamic. I do not want a romance. And I think that the few, episodes earlier on the season, when the Worf episode where the like alternate universe where he's in a relationship with Troi and they have the kids feels like a test run, that they were like, let's like test the waters and see if people are into this. Have I got news for you? I'm not into this, even though this came out 30 years ago. I'm angry about it. I'm not happy about it. The relationship I've been rooting for fucking 7 seasons / in our real life recording of this 5.5 fucking years.
Yeah.
And they fucked me. I'm mad. The relationship I was rooting for, we get this one? No.
Also,
we have to leave Dr. C and Picard in the fucking dust, and we're getting this? I'm so mad. And I love the romance stuff, but I'm mad at this.
yeah. Although I will argue that I do think Riker does catch on. I think
I hope so.
I think Riker caught on to what Worf was asking, and he was like, "Are you gonna say it straight up? Like, come on, dude."
Well, because here's the thing. I don't know if he necessarily does, because he's like, you sound like a man who's asking his friend if he can start dating his sister. So I feel like that this was abstract enough that he might not have caught on. He just is like, Worf is being fucking weird. I don't know what he's specifically getting to, but
No, I think it was more of like, dude, you're making this way more serious than it needs to be. Like,
okay.
just ask me.
I don't interpret if that's how you interpret. That's no. To me, I don't know that Riker necessarily caught on, but if that you see it that way, that's fine. To each their own, right? Okay, so Troi goes back to the walkway and asks Worf to open the doors to that like little sort of space where Dan walked through, and they'll stay open for 90 seconds. And Troi immediately sees a woman who is terrified. And then I wrote scary white man. Then we see the room, the nacelle tube room, look like it's under construction still. And then Troi opens another door and we see a couple kissing, and then they start to laugh in like a weird mocking way. Troi turns around and walks into Worf, and she's like very spooked, but she's like, let's get the fuck out of here. So then Troi then recounts her experience to Worf, Picard, and Data, and she does remember a tool crate on the floor, which it is very like prominently centered, that it says Utopia Plantatia.
Oh, Planitia.
And Planitia. You know what's so funny is I wrote out phonetically what it is, and I didn't look at it.
Oh.
Because I knew I was gonna pronounce it wrong, and I wrote out Planitia like phonetically, like plan ISHA, and I still didn't say it right. So it's the shipyard where the Enterprise was built.
Yeah.
And this also might be me just like being like not remembering this, but I didn't realize that the Enterprise was like so new when the show started.
Yeah.
I for some reason thought it'd been going for longer, but I guess I either didn't realize that or have forgotten that is what it was.
Yeah. I think it's because there have been many Enterprises, that this is just like the latest version of the Enterprise.
Well, I know it's their latest version. I just thought that it was like they had maybe been going with it for like at least a couple of years before. I didn't realize it was like so new to like TNG.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a super new ship.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I either didn't remember that or never, put two and two together. One of the two. Both are equally likely. So we know Dan helped build the Enterprise. They I think like Maddie mentions that earlier. And I just was like, oh, I wonder if the walkway is haunted from an event during the building. I mean,
yeah,
kinda. And as these people Troi saw were laughing, maybe, and Dan said so because Dan said something right before he jumped. He mentioned people laughing, and so I was like, so he obviously saw. Like I thought this was an experience that he was having or something, because the couple who were laughing at, like, they were kissing and then they stopped and were laughing. I assumed that's all connected, and I was like, maybe he saw that or something. Like I wasn't entirely sure, but I was like, he mentioned the laughing, so I don't know if that's the exact laughing he was talking about. I had a whole other theory of what thing was, and I'm glad I was wrong. I'll mention the theory when after, but Picard is like, oh yeah, Picard is actually on the same page as me with the haunted theory. He's like, oh, maybe he's like, it's Troi saw something that took place on over there like 8 years ago, so it's not we're seeing some, like, he thinks maybe could be not haunting per se, but like we're seeing something that happened a long time ago.
Yeah, some emotional echo or some shit.
Yeah. So Troi doesn't like immediately recognize anyone in her vision, but the scary white man who freaked her out, who they say has reddish hair. It doesn't look reddish to me, but
Yeah.
again, probably subjective. He does seem moderately familiar to her. And so I wrote down, I think someone else killed themselves in that room while they were building the ship. And so they think that Troi, so that everyone sort of thinks that Troi is seeing this event through Dan's eyes. So I was confused because I was like, Dan just died, so it wouldn't be the same event. They're like, it could be from 8 years ago, but they think that it's through Troy's eyes. So I was like, this doesn't really make sense, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't have it kind of both ways. So then, vindication for later. So Troi then wants to go back to the tube and to the nacelle tube, and Dr. C's like, I can give you something to lower the empath abilities, so it's not like crazy thing. She can just sort of like see what's happening and not have her like head be like bombarded with a bunch of shit. She just can deal with the visual aspect, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. And she can kind of process what she's seeing better. So Troi is she's in her quarters. I think. I don't know. And she's searching for people she saw in the vibes on the computer. And then people who looked at... No, this isn't in her quarters. No, this is some... You know what? I don't know. I don't remember. But she's at the computer. They've sort of narrowed down a search to people who were both at Utopia Planitia and the Enterprise. So she finds Lieutenant Walker Pierce, and he came on board 6 months ago in engineering. He was Dan's supervisor at Utopia Planitia. And Troi asks Walter if he's ever worked in this nacelle tube, and he's like, he deflects, and he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I worked everywhere on the ship, but like, I remember putting this power conduit behind this exact wall. And Troi's like, okay, well, like, cool, but did you ever work with Dan in the nacelle room? And he's like, I don't fucking remember. And obviously bullshit. And Troy's like, cool, anything interesting happened then? And he's like, no, everything went smoothly. I'm like, cool, for someone who doesn't remember, you're like, yeah, everything went smoothly, sure.
Yeah.
And so he's like, what's this about? And Troi explains this like empath echo she's experienced, and she saw him in there. And he's like, cool, no idea what you're talking about. And Troy's like, okay, well, by the way, I can totally sense some people are lying to me. So if like, you know, anything occurs to you, you know, let me know. And so then her and Worf leave engineering, and she admits to Worf that she's like got fully like no read on Walter at all. She, though, assumes that because she can't get a read on him, he's got some kind of telepathic ability, because she like fully just couldn't read his emotions, but she could feel that he was holding something back. So Troi suggests...
So, wait. Can I interject quickly for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
For anybody who's like watched this episode recently or for the first time or something like that, This guy comes off as like exceedingly creepy, even though he's actually just being like quite friendly and whatnot. It just is his face, and I don't know why that is his face, but holy shit, does it mean they perfectly cast him when he was in the Shawshank Redemption as the fucking what's his name? The other inmate who's trying to he's like what do you call it? He's like really threatening and like incarcerated and gay, but not actually gay, just like, inmate gay kind of thing. And oh my fucking god, he's creepy as fuck in that. He's creepy as fuck in this. And it's just his fucking face. He's really good at looking creepy as fuck. And I could not unsee it. The first time that he shows up on screen in this episode, I'm like, oh no, he did it. 100%, it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first shot we see of him, the 1 second of a clip, I wrote, scary white man.
Boggs, that was his name.
Oh, okay. I've never seen Shawshank Redemption, so I wouldn't be able to help you there. So Troi suggests that accessing the engineering logs from Utopia Planitia to find out more about Walter and possibly Dan. So Worf follows Troi to her quarters and then just like awkwardly stands beside her while she sets up a search on the computer. And then Troy's like, yeah, it'll take half an hour for the transmission to be completed. And Worf is like, cool. I guess we should continue this in the morning. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then I just wrote, why is this the most awkward and long goodnight I've ever seen? And then immediately I wrote, JK, it got worse. So then Worf just randomly takes Troy's hand and then he kind of kisses her neck. I'm not sure if he kisses her neck or her cheek. I'm truly not certain. And then they start kissing and I assume they're fucking. They fuck because then like the next scene is Worf making breakfast. And then I was like, okay, they are like, they did fuck because then he goes into her bedroom area and she's still in her nightgown and he wakes her up with a kiss on the cheek. And like, I'm not on board, but I will say that was like surprisingly like soft and kind of like tender for Worf. Like I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I guess because he's like very gruff that like I'm not like I didn't expect him to be this like I really like tender is really the only word I can think of for this. It just was like, okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's like him. I think this was just kind of what the writers were deciding to do by the end of TNG, and like,
here's the thing. I don't like it. It's on one hand, it does seem out of character, but at the same time, based on the like growth that Worf has had over the years, and because of his friendship with Troi, it's not as like left field.
That's fair.
As it
Worf's also probably feeling kind of sentimental right now because worth it to keep in mind that like one of the first reactions that he has in the episode is when they're looking through the personal files and she's just like, this doesn't seem like somebody who's planning to kill themselves. And Worf's just like, no, it does not. He would fucking know. He has tried to kill himself twice in TNG.
Jeez, Worf.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay, so then she sits up, she hugs him, asks why they didn't do this ages ago. And I was like, God damn it. Her talking to freaking Maddie earlier in the episode. I said, I hope this doesn't trigger anything, and of course it fucking did. And then Dr. C calls Troi to tell her that the empath inhibitor is like ready for her in sickbay, and then they hang up, and then like Dr. C immediately calls Worf right after, and she's like, hey, this thing's ready for you in the cargo bay. And then they kind of laugh, and I was like, ha 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 ha. Like, I don't like this. It's not the worst, but I don't like it. Okay, so then in sickbay,
at least to me, it kind of feels like we're running out of ideas and just throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah, I'm not on board. So okay, Dr. C then gives Troi the inhibitor, and Worf comes into sickbay, and it's actually not awkward, but they are very like formal / professional, which is like, I guess, good that it just it didn't feel awkward. I guess because they're friends also, it's just like, I don't know.
I mean, when they started kissing in the first place, it felt awkward. Because there's this thing where she's just kind of looking straight and not having any kind of like emotional reaction on her face at all, which was a little strange. I don't know why they decided on that.
I don't understand any of these decisions. But then we learn that Worf is needed elsewhere, so Troi will go meet Data and Geordi at the nacelle tube herself, and he's like, I'll try to catch up with you later. And then she watches Worf kind of like... Maddie is in this episode, like a surprising amount. Mm-hmm. And he goes over and like sort of like stands behind her, putting his hands on the chair. And I was like, that is a surprising move for Worf. That is a Riker move, 1,000%. That is not a Worf move of like putting his hands on the chair, like hovering over like that. I was like, this is strange. So Troi then realizes so in the nacelle tube, she realizes that this particular panel, she's like gonna go up to the walkway, and there's this little panel, and she realizes it's not original to the ship. It was added 2 years ago. I thought this was going to be important. It wasn't. But Troi, then she remembers that a plasma conduit from the Echo, and she wants to see it. So Dan was working on this particular plasma conduit before he died, and in the background we see this huge room that I don't think we've ever seen before. I don't really know how to describe it. It just looks where like a lot of like power goes to or something, but it's like empty. It's like, it's very Oh, that's the nacelle tube. Oh, okay, because they keep saying, I was like, felt so weird calling the room that they keep being in the nacelle tube. Is that the tube? I wanted to actually ask about this because I keep saying the tube, but like I was unsure if there's like an additional place that is the tube, or is this room they've been in the tube?
That's the big matte painting behind them is the nacelle tube.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're just in the room. Okay, that helps. Thank you. Okay. Because I kept saying tube, so I was like, okay.
Actually, it's interesting because the director insisted that matte painting get made. He was like, look, we have room in the budget. We can't just keep calling this the nacelle tube and not show the nacelle tube. So it was interesting. He made sure that painting was made.
It was interesting. Honestly, that part didn't bother me. It was the lighting when you're standing in front of it that looked really weird. It was like unusually bright.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Troi asks Lieutenant Nara if there were anything unusual with the work Dan was doing prior to his death, and Nara's like, oh, he was refitting a field coil, but it was probably the first time that particular panel has been opened since the ship was built. And so Geordi opens the panel, and Troi sees the scared woman again and sees Walter, like an image of Walter looking pissed. And she thinks that maybe opening the panel triggered this particular vision. And so Data gets recordings that there is organic material embedded in the wall. So Geordi adjusts the tool that he's holding, and we see a fucking skeleton in the wall.
Jesus. Yeah.
So, Troi is given another dose of the inhibitor and in sickbay, and then Maddie brings in the human skeleton she's put together, and she has a DNA sample, and she's going to try to match it to Starfleet records. And then Worf again stands behind Maddie with leaning on the chair. It's very fucking weird. And Dr. C thinks the skeleton has been in the wall for like 7 to 8 years. And I thought that Maddie had something to do with this because she appeared so much in this episode. And I thought it was like unusual how much she was used in this episode. And so I thought stuff was like related to her. And if like maybe the vengeful spirit has to do with her. No, really, honestly, is nothing to do with her. Okay, so we learn that the skeleton belongs to Ensign Marla Finn, who is in fact the scared woman that Troi keeps seeing in her visions. She's one half of the kissing couple from earlier, from the earlier vision where they were kissing and then start laughing. Marla is one of the people in that. So Marla was reported missing from Utopia Planitia 8 years ago. And we learned that Dan actually didn't arrive at Utopia. Jesus, I've said this 65 times already, and I'm already fucking it up. Utopia Planitia until after Marla was already missing. So he didn't know her. So it's not his eyes we're seeing through. And I was like, see? I was like, I knew that didn't make sense. So I was like, ha ha ha. But whose eyes are we seeing through then? Hoo, hoo, hoo. It's gotta be someone else telepathic. It's Walter. We established this like a while ago that he obviously has some kind of telepathic ability. But she's like, but I saw Walter. And Troi puts us together by looking at her own reflection on a panel. And she's like, oh yeah, reflections exist. Like, you did it, Troi. I love it. You put it together. We did it, gang. Worf then thanks Maddie for, very specifically for her help. And Troi again clocks it. And she's like, what the fuck's going on? This is very weird. So they decide they need to speak to Walter again. So Troi and Worf exit the sick bay and they go into the turbo lift, and Troi just like flat out asks Worf if he regrets being with her last night. And he does not. And then I wrote, you know, the AV team is losing their shit over this right now. They're like, this is the hottest of hot goss. And Troi does admit she's not really feeling herself at the moment, and Worf suggests that maybe he talk to Walter alone, and he will meet her in her quarters later. And then I realized, who was supervising Alexander last night?
Oh, yeah.
If Worf spent the whole night with Troi, what was Alexander doing? He's still a kid. He's just a little kid. And if he's going to meet her later, who's watching Alexander? I mean, I know obviously in the daytime he's at school, but like in the evening, because then like if Worf is busy, Troi would hang out with him, but like they're both busy. So who's hanging out with him? Oh boy. So Troi, we go to her in her quarters, and she's put on her older uniform, the onesie, and then she gets a buzz and she's like, come in. And Walter comes into her quarters and very menacing. And I just wrote, if this bitch touches her in any way, I will murder him myself. And then Troi, like immediately she calls security to her quarters, and Walter's like, oh, Worf sent him to see her. And she's like, what? And she tries to find Worf, and the computer says that he's in Maddie's quarters. And security made fucking excellent time. They show up immediately, and Troi orders them to take Walter to his quarters and hold him there. And Troi is really pissed. She overrides the access to Maddie's quarters, which is kind of insane. She doesn't like knock. She just like busts in, and she sees Maddie and Worf kissing. And I wrote, what in the days of our lives is happening? Like, this is so strange. And then Maddie and Worf start laughing like Marla and that other guy did in the other vision. And then Troi takes a phaser and shoots Worf dead. It's like, what the fuck? And then she starts running through the halls until she runs into Walter, who tells her, you know what you have to do. And I was like, oh my fucking God, you guys. And so then Troi rushes to the nacelle tube room and up to the walkway, and she opens that door again. So she's in the same position as Dan was at the beginning of the episode, and she says, I know what I have to do, which is the same thing that Dan said the beginning of the episode also. And she's about to jump, and then Worf pulls her away, and she's kind of like shocked back into the present, and she's in her other uniform, and none of that was real. And she's very relieved to see that she didn't actually kill Worf. So we do learn that Walter's maternal grandmother was born on Beta Z. And Walter and the others were killed in an accidental plasma discharge 8 years ago. Their bodies were never found. Troi thinks it wasn't an accident. She thinks that Walter found out Marla and this other guy were having an affair. He lost control, killed them both, and then afterwards he probably activated the plasma stream and threw himself into it. The plasma discharge would have obliterated any evidence of that this was murder. And then Geordie had scanned behind the panel, and Troi asked him to check for bone fragments. They didn't find those, but found traces of cellular residue. So showing some kind of psionic signature. And then Troi says, it may be that when Lieutenant Pierce was struck by the plasma stream, the subspace energy present there imprinted his empathic pattern into the residue. And then Geordie said, kind of like a psychic photograph. And then Troi says that. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to walk into traffic myself.
Sorry,
now.
when he says that, I literally just wrote in capital letters in my notes, a psychic photograph.
Jesus, they fucking am mad. So then Troi says, that's what triggered my hallucination. My mind must have taken elements from my own life and then created a situation that in many ways mirrored what happened to Pierce. And then Troi admits that if Worf hadn't been there, she probably would have died. And then they're on the bridge. Her and Worf are on the bridge, surrounded by other people. And then Worf says, Counselor, when I pulled you from the plasma stream, you seemed surprised I was alive. And then Troi says, well, actually, in my hallucination, you were killed. And then Worf goes, may I ask by whom? And then Troi says, well, you know what they say, Mr. Worf. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
You know
and
what
then
they
she
say,
walks
Mr.
away.
Worf? Hell hath no fury like a line from a 1994 television show.
And Worf took. So I also when she walked out, I timed the amount of time it took Worf to register what she said, and it was almost 8 seconds for him to put like 2 and 6 together that she killed him. And Worf, why do you truly take so long to figure anything out? But I do think it's funny that we do get to see Worf realize stuff in real time.
Yeah.
Which I do appreciate. I do get a kick out of, even though it takes like a surprising amount of time.
I mean,
I have
be
lots
honest,
of thoughts about this
It probably
episode.
would have taken me that long to figure it out too.
I have lots of feelings, mostly anger, but also confusion, because here's my biggest thing of this episode, other than the obvious romance part. The actual like mystery of this all, I actually am still a little confused.
It's not a good
Maybe
mystery.
this might be also me thinking a little too like specific of like technicalities. But when they searched for these people the first time, why would it have said that Walter had joined the ship 6 months ago? Wouldn't it have said that he died 8 years ago? I don't understand how we.
Wait. What
I
the
don't
hell are you talking
understand
about?
the like. Troi was like, when they first figured out Walter, she was like, oh yeah, he joined the ship 6 months
That's part
ago.
of the hallucination.
How much of this fucking episode is the hallucination?
Like-
because I was
like
so
80%
confused by
of
the
it.
end. I don't like this.
Okay, basically, when she goes in there with Worf, and goes up, like Worf is there as her backup, and she walks up to the what do you call it? Well, walks up to the open. Well, she opens the doorway and whatnot. That's it. Everything after that is not happening.
Because like it's confusing.
Fun fact.
So then
the actors were confused.
Wait. So okay, but Worf and Troi did fuck. That wasn't part of the imagination.
No, that happened after.
Or was that part of the imagination?
That
okay.
happened after that scene. Yeah.
God, I wish that part was real. I am so unhappy with this escalation. I'm not happy about this.
So, Worf asking Riker if he can date Troi, but not actually asking her because he's a fucking wuss. That is real, I believe. That happens before the two of them go stand there and whatnot. Everything else after she walks up there and stands there in the room with Worf for this the second time standing there for her. All of that is just the hallucination. I know it's very confusing. The episode doesn't do a good job of explaining it. The episode was rushed, so there is that. It was kind of a late written panic thing that like the idea came off of like a memo or something like that, and it went through like rewrite, and then they were like shit, we need to get this out the door real fast. So yeah, this kind of happens towards the end of each season where they start to run out of ideas because they've been working for like 24 weeks straight, whatever. And they're like, shit, we need ideas. We need to finish off the episode or the season and whatnot. And they come up with some that don't hit. And it's weird because I do actually enjoy watching this episode, but it's got a lot of problems. And like you've already brought up that, yeah, it is literally confusing. And it's that is all the fault of, I think it's a combination of the directing and the script, actually. The director, I believe, flat out said, like, I'm not sure what's real and what isn't. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, it's not great when the director doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
No, definitely isn't.
It just...
But then the episode has a lot of really good scenes, like all of like the really cryptic stuff with the with Dan at the very beginning of it, and like Riker's reaction to it, and how there are chunks of the episode where it treats suicide with the like seriousness of a subject that it is. And then there's Data's scene, which I believe you wanted to say something about, Dory.
Yeah. Listen, I love Data. I very much appreciate Data. I'm a big Data fan. I enjoy him immensely. This was maybe some of the worst shit I've heard from Data. Because it doesn't... Okay, Data in and of itself saying start again immediately like negates anything after. Because if you're just like doing a reboot, you're not dying. You're still like... You're not. It's not committing. You're not committing suicide. You knew that you'd be coming back.
Well, he will be
This
erasing
is like,
everything up to that point.
But that is a completely different. But his experience is not the same. I also what frustrated me.
No, it isn't the same.
Is also Data's logic of like, and I get it. Listen, I know he goes the logic direction. I just wish that they didn't try to make it so matter-of-factly of like that Data the reason he didn't do his reboot is because he decided to treat the problems as a challenge and overcome it rather than obstacles to be avoided.
Yeah.
When it's like, sure, that's a nice way to think of it, Data, but that is like honestly really an ignorant thing to say, because that's not how people who are suicidal or mental health issue, like that is not something that people, nobody who's like, that's not a thing.
This was an episode
like,
written by people who have never experienced wanting to commit suicide, and that is clear.
Like,
well, you can never know that, but
well, okay,
it certainly comes off that way.
Because if you're thinking, oh, these are just obstacles that you need to overcome, then you're not suicidal.
Yeah.
Like the whole, not the whole point, because again, I'm really. It just, I feel like they're trying to take this a little too like, not hand-holdy, but it's like, it's too bad. They make it feel like it's too bad this guy really just like let the bad feelings win.
It was the 90s.
When he could have tried not killing himself.
Was the 90s,
and I'm like, that's
not
as
forward thinking as you could get when discussing this subject in the 90s, outside of like a really like one of those movies that like becomes a cult classic years later because it actually treats something seriously.
Yeah, just this really had the vibe of like, have you tried not killing yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not.
Hey, just
like,
don't be sad. Yeah. Just don't.
Yeah, it's fine. Just think of it as like a challenge to overcome.
Oh, good point.
That like unfucks your brain chemistry.
They didn't even treat it as a brain chemistry issue at this point.
No, because they don't even address the fact that it can be a mental health issue. They just were like, well, there was something he couldn't fix. So like,
yeah, Dory, there's been a lot of development in how the mainstream looks at mental health issues in the last 30 years. So you got to give them a little bit of credit for growing up in ignorance and therefore just repeating the ignorance. Like, they didn't have a way to think about this differently, most likely, unless they had directly experienced it. And even then, a lot of doctors didn't know how to think about it back then.
Sure. I have a very hard time with this. And what
Yeah,
also
that's fair.
bothers me is because in the end, it feels like at the beginning they work so hard to be like, well, we have to get to the bottom of this. Like, this is a horrible, heartbreaking scenario. But by the end, Dan himself is basically forgotten about, even though this was about them trying to figure out, because he didn't in fact kill himself on purpose. He was obviously being haunted. I don't really exactly understand, but like, he obviously didn't, like, this wasn't a choice for him. He was obviously like,
No, it was psychic
so
haunting.
like, which like makes it just
It was
There's a
like
lot of
it
ghosts
was
in this
coerced.
season.
It was coerced. It wasn't like his
Yeah.
own genuine thing that he wanted to do.
Yeah, so not that it's like, oh, I wanted him to have done this. Obviously, no.
yeah.
But it just it's a
It-
different
it-
kind of
It
heartbreaking.
changes the context.
Yeah, so like it's heartbreaking, you know, for this guy nonetheless, like whichever way he dies, but just in the way that this was not a choice for him. That
It wasn't truly
it
his
just-
own doing.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like brushed off and ended the episode with Troy being like, I killed you.
Yeah.
I killed you, Worf.
This is the second restless spirit in this season that I can think of. Actual restless spirit. Like, it's literally nothing but that. It is a restless spirit.
I struggled with and I thought going in, I was like, okay, it's a really interesting thing to start, like the premise and like trying to figure out why this man took his life.
And Troy's performance is great.
Yeah, no,
Rita
she's
Sirtis
great. She's great
really
in
does a
this,
good job
but
with
like,
this.
and I do like, for once, like, you know, an episode focused on Troy. I mean, she's being terrorized, but not like not assaulted. So I'll take that, I guess.
Yep.
I'll take what I can get.
She's not being assaulted. She's not being abused.
It's still
Yeah,
tragic. It's still a bummer, but
Yeah.
So there's actually a thought that I had regarding this episode, and that's that this episode is a bit of a departure for Star Trek for a lot of reasons. One is that it's, you know, tackling a situation like this. Like this episode getting on TV and showing a suicide on screen. Holy shit, I'm surprised it wasn't censored in any way. But in addition to that, if Gene Roddenberry had still been alive, he never would have let this episode go. Not even remotely. For two reasons. One is it's showing suicide. So it would have been like, nope, not happening, not in the Federation. But two, the trigger for it is murder by human beings in like the heart of Federation territory over jealousy.
yeah.
Like his entire attitude was that humans would be over that by now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's a whole hell of a lot of shit that Gene Roddenberry believed would not happen anymore.
Yeah. And like he does explicitly say it many times throughout the series. There are so many, especially towards the beginning, where there's all of like the preachiness about how great humanity is and how far we've come and whatnot. And there's an example within the last decade of people murdering each other over jealousy, like in the heart of the Federation, building the flagship of the Federation. This, like, Utopia Planitia is, I believe it's surrounding Jupiter
I
or
thought it was
Saturn.
Mars, wasn't it?
No, it's further out than that. Mars has its own colony on it. Utopia Planitia is in space.
No, I know, but I thought it was.
yeah,
I thought it was like orbiting Mars.
No, I'd have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's further out.
Okay.
Because there's an episode, I think not in Enterprise. There's an episode where it gets hit, where it gets like invaded, and it being close enough to Earth was scary enough, but it being up Mars, no, that's way too fucking close. I'm looking it up, but
Let's see. Here, Utopia Planitia was a fucking.
Oh fuck! Yeah, you're right. It's in Mars.
Yeah. See?
All right, cool. I was wrong.
Fuck, I was gonna have a mic drop moment, and then fucking
Oh.
the stupid fandom wiki website put up an ad in front of the thing I was reading.
Of course they fucking did.
Oh, God. Such a terrible ass fucking website.
Oh,
I hate that. I hate that all the fandom wikis use this.
okay.
Bullshit
So
now.
I see even more of why I was wrong. Utopia Planitia is real. It's an actual like rock basin on Mars, and they just named the facility after that. Interesting. Okay.
Wild.
Okay. I must be getting mixed up with another space facility that they show on screen at one point. But yeah. Anyway, so
Jeff never believing women.
that's
Yeah,
me, man.
truly.
I'm just way too sexist.
Yeah, Maggie was right.
That is correct.
Maggie was right. Maggie was right.
Anyway, so the fact that Gene Roddenberry would not have let this fly shows to me that they're kind of starting to run out of ideas, because like they would ride the line throughout Star Trek's production, like going on further and further into DS9. They're gonna get to points where they're literally questioning what does it mean to be in a utopia, and what does it cost to keep a utopia. And you run into all of these like very difficult questions, but they all still ride the line. This one, I think, genuinely just straight up crosses it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? It's funny you saying that thing about how this is like a lot of like shit that Gene Roddenberry wouldn't let fly.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you, but I will also say that like at certain points this episode was giving like sort of season 2 vibes when they do like the sort of horror episodes.
Oh yeah, as in it feels like it's kind of a silly premise that they're just kind of playing around with, kind of thing, right?
The like more the atmosphere.
Okay,
It's
fair
like
enough.
it was the same sort of atmosphere they'd give to like the more horror sort of darker episodes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's a weird fucking episode, man. I still like it, but it has a
This
lot
is
of
usually
flaws.
a skip for me.
Not me, actually. I tend to I would find myself going back to it, but it's still like I actually haven't watched it in a long time, and watching it again, I liked it less than I thought I was going to. I think what my main problem with it is that by the time that it gets to the more ridiculous part of her hallucination, you're at this point where characters are not really acting in character. Like, Worf is acting way too suave, and it gets to be noticeable. There's that weird scene with their first kiss where she has, like, no emotional reaction on her face at all, and then it lingers on the kiss for a really long time. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel particularly invested in her feelings as it goes forward because it feels like they're rushed. And then like the jealousy doesn't make any sense, and there's things like that. Worf's behavior towards that other ensign doesn't make any sense, and there's all of these things that keep coming up that like I know part of it is because I know the twist, but another part of it is I'm sitting there trying to like care about things the way that Troi is caring about it, and I'm just like, man, I can tell as soon as this is off. Like, there are so many signs. Maybe it's one of those episodes you can only watch once.
Yeah, I don't need to watch it again.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm good. Yeah, it does feel like it was very like abrupt. I feel like, as I said earlier, it feels like the writers were like dipping their toes in with the Worf Troi relationship in that other episode, but like not in real life. Like not in the real, like the normal timeline.
Right, yeah.
So it does feel like, because we haven't really, nothing's come up until this episode of them having even any kind of like more intimate relationship. So it really did feel like very weird and sudden. Like I don't like it.
Yeah. Same. It's just
I want to build. I need a build up.
yeah, it's not even like, at least for me, not so much about the buildup. It's just like, this just doesn't really make that much sense to me.
Oh,
Like-
I mean, like in general, I like a build up. For this, I don't want
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
This, I want nothing. I don't want this relationship at all. And now I'm worried this is going to be the one fucking bit of continuity that this show fucking goes with when I've been asking for continuity for so long. Or if I'm going by, TNG rules next episode, there's nothing. Let's hope that's what happens. That's what I'm hoping for. But maybe because I want it to be gone, I do not want this relationship. It will be.
they'll keep
it will persist. Nevertheless, this relationship persists.
Yeah, I was gonna make the
Unfortunately.
same joke.
The next episode is actually all about their
that's
romance.
Oh, I hope not. I hope you're just fucking with me because And here's the thing. I don't even think I don't like this romance because I don't think it's good. I love their friendship. I don't want this romance. And I'm not just being salty because of Picard and Dr. C. I just don't think Troi and Worf make a good romantic couple.
Yeah. At least not the way they've done it. Like, I could see it being interesting, especially if you, like, really played up more of the, like, them getting closer because of Alexander angle. But, yeah.
But they would never. They forget Alexander exists.
Yeah,
this child has been
exactly.
unsupervised for days. Alexander's just, like, sitting on a floor somewhere being like, Dad?
Yeah.
It's like, shut up, Alexander. Your dad's busy being in a hallucination. give him a minute. This poor child. Maybe Spot's hanging out with him. I don't know. That's more
Yeah.
supervision that Worf gives.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right. So I think it's time to move on to favorite moments and lines.
I guess I liked the Worf and Riker super awkward scene. I liked Worf's line, there are things we do not understand, yet they exist nonetheless. I think that might be it. Honestly, on like a side note thing, I kind of miss Picard.
Yeah.
We haven't had a Picard-centric episode in so long that, like, the little bits we were getting of him this episode, I was like, I miss him.
You're right. It does feel like it's been a bit. Since he's played any sort of major role in an episode. I don't really have, like, much, like, favorite specific stuff. It was kind of nice to have another, like, sort of dark episode, like something that has a little bit more of a darker atmosphere to it, because I feel like we haven't had one of those in quite a while. But, like, that's about it, to be honest.
That's fair. I think for me, it's actually Dan's lines at the beginning of the episode. He is creepy. Like that is extremely cryptic, and as soon as he jumps and Riker fucking reacts with just he basically wants to yell like fuck. Like you can see it in him when he does that, like hitting the corridor thing, and like I don't know, I thought that was a well done scene. Even though it's not like a favorite scene, it's more like a wow, I really liked how they did that. Yeah, I don't know how to react to it because none of the scenes in this episode are like all that feel good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so time to move on to predictions for the next episode. Dory, the next episode is called Genesis. So your tidbit for this episode is you'll be happy to know, a Picard and Data episode.
Ooh.
So Picard and Data have to go off and do something. And it does not matter. It does not matter. When they come back to the ship, they must solve a prehistoric mystery.
There's a dinosaur? Okay, so there's a dinosaur on the Enterprise. He's the captain now. Everyone, oh my god, that honestly would be so funny. Actually, I do have an idea, like a real idea though. Based on, like, I do love the idea of they're just like, Picard goes onto the bridge and sitting in his captain chair is a dinosaur. Velociraptor would be so funny.
No spoilers, but there's a Voyager episode in which it turns out dinosaurs didn't really die; they evolved into another species.
Oh, wild.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
but I think
fucking
I mean, they
stupid.
kind of did. I think like birds are kind of.
No, they
yeah,
evolve
yeah.
into a sentient species, leave
Oh.
Earth, and then they're just like, there's no way that we came from the same planet as these humans. That's stupid. And it turns out they all evolved from like Parasaurolophus or something like that.
Oh.
The ones with the big horn that went on like the back of their head, where their nose is like way at the top of their head or something like that. But yeah, it's stupid.
Triceratops.
No. Parasaurolophus. It's weird.
oh.
It has like kind of a hook thing on the back of its head.
Okay.
Oh, I
okay.
think I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so in terms of like prediction, I feel like realistically this has got to be archaeology related because that's Picard's hobby. Okay, maybe. What if they found fucking dinosaur bones on a different planet?
I thought you were gonna say, what if they found dinosaur bones on the Enterprise?
That would just be this episode again, except dinosaurs instead of murderers.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I think maybe they found dinosaur bones like that are originally like same DNA as like Earth dinosaurs. Wow, language is failing me. Or like the same, dinosaur family. And they're like, what the fuck? That's actually wild. And how did it get there? What does it mean? And maybe there's like, not to get into a conspiracy, but like, what if like dinosaur bones go for something at like other planets and maybe was used as like currency or it was like planted there to like fuck with other people or alternatively the craziest theory would be that okay, so I do think my theory is they find these dinosaur bones on a different planet and maybe Picard, I'm really just because I want a holodeck episode, he tries to solve the like logistics of how these bones could have ended up there in the holodeck. But also I do fully admit that doesn't make sense. A prehistoric mystery? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Or maybe they just find like a fucking... Listen, the Enterprise is so big, you don't know what's buried in the ship. There's rooms. There's so many rooms. Didn't I say one time there's a swimming pool or something? Didn't we establish there was a pool somewhere on the ship at one point? Maybe they find like a fucking mammoth, a woolly mammoth somewhere. And he's hanging
You're
around.
thinking of Cetacean Ops, right?
I don't know.
Are you thinking of the thing where they were gonna have like dolphins on board?
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
Yeah.
They made that canon in Lower Decks.
Yeah, so they're gonna have giant tanks of water to keep dolphins in, so they could
Oh my
quote
gosh.
unquote help with navigation.
Okay, but if anything, here that actually would help with the because sharks are like from like certain sharks I think are like from the Jurassic or like from
Prehistoric,
so like maybe there's sharks in the pool.
Oh my god!
I've really made a mess of this. There's a lot going on in this prediction.
So you think this is Star Trek's Jumping the Shark episode?
One of them.
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably
one
good
of
enough.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those.
All right, so if you want to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.